Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Over and Over and Over Again. This is a very special show we're going to be bringing you this afternoon. It is, of course, Arsenal legend, former Arsenal player, coach, lots of great throughout, obviously, and author of the new book, Arsenal and After, which I've got this behind me, as you can see. It is a great book. There is a link to the book in the description of the video as well, if you want to buy that, which I do recommend that you do. We're just waiting for Paul, actually. There's a couple of little technical issues at his end, trying to get into the stream. So we've been trying for the last 10 minutes. Hopefully it won't be very long. He'll be here with us, and we can get into it all. But yeah, in the meantime, I say, if you haven't bought the book yet, please do so. I say there is a link down there in the description. It is fantastic, not only about his career but about his life, and we will be talking about aspects of that very, very shortly when Paul joins us. So yeah, it's going to be a really good show, and it is going to be a lot of fun as well, and hopefully we'll get through these technical issues very, very shortly, and Paul will be with us at the other side of this. And just on cue, who's turned up? It is, of course, Paul Davies. Fantastic to see you. How are you today?
Good, very well, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. You managed to get your technical issue sorted out?
Yeah, apologies, my end, a few technical issues, but I'm glad to be on. Thanks for having me on, Richard.
Oh no, it's an absolute pleasure. You know, you one of the first players I saw when you started breaking into the team early 80s. My first season, 81, 82, watching Arsenal. You're obviously a regular in the team, so I've got a lot of memories of you playing for the club as well. I know you here obviously talk about the book, which is the main thing. It is a fantastic book. What I wanted to say first of all about it was it's very emotional, actually, reading it. Unlike a lot of sports kind of autobiographies, there's a lot of real emotion there, isn't there? Did you find that when you was writing it as well?
Yeah, absolutely, Richard. It was yeah, I think for me, it was very emotional, and I wanted it to be a book of things that happened to me outside of football. I wanted the fans and people reading it to kind of get a sense of what life is like for footballers, and particularly black footballer who's grown up in inner city London, who came from immigrant family. And I wanted the fans to kind of see that side of it. So when we set out to write it, it was from that lens. Fans had always come up to me, particularly after my career had ended, and were asking questions about, obviously, what's it like to play in the derby? You first came against Spurs. What was it like in '89? Why did you leave Arsenal? What are you doing now? Those kind of questions were constantly being asked, and I think fans are interested in stuff like that. So that was one of the main reasons for writing the book, just to give the fans a bit of an insight into those kind of questions, and a lot more things besides like winning stuff, which the book talks about, the major trophies that we won, and my relationships with individuals. So yeah, it was painful, but it was enjoyable as well. I'm glad I did it. There's a lot of things that I hadn't spoken about in my career. I wasn't sort of one of those that kind of spoke a lot to the press or in the media about stuff. So a lot of the stuff that I went through as a player, I don't think the fans really got to hear about. They only saw the sort of the stuff that happened on the pitch. So hopefully the intention is that, it gives people an insight into some of the other stuff that goes on away from the playing. And there's lots of stuff that does go on away from playing, as I'm sure people are interested to find out, and hopefully the book reveals some of that.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose really from a fan's perspective, you were one of the players that we never really heard a lot from. You didn't do a lot of interviews. It was a lot of other players, obviously, were in the headlines a lot more. And I suppose in that sense, people perhaps didn't know very much about you at all, other than what, as you said, what they saw on the pitch. So what the book's done, certainly for me, is given me a really big insight into a lot of other aspects of you as a person, as well as you as a footballer, that we would never have known before, because you didn't really do a lot of press stuff, did you? You wasn't. I mean, I can remember a few of the videos at the end of the season where you maybe spoke a couple of times, but you wasn't really, hardly ever heard you speak at all. As a fan, it was, so the book was really revealing in that sense, actually.
Yeah, and I was aware that that was the case. I didn't, and I suppose back then as well, we were limited to what we could say in the papers. The club had a lot of control over what came out in the press. The manager had a lot of control. It's not like now players have got their own sort of press thing going on with their Twitters and their Instagram and all that. They can tweet out almost what they like. Back in our day, back in our prime, none of that. It's just newspapers really. And so as players, we weren't able to there was no outlet for us apart from papers. And if the clubs, by and large, kind of shut that one down, then there was no way of getting, your side of things out, your feelings of what's going on. So yeah, it has changed a lot from when I played. I wasn't particularly one for going out and speaking out about stuff anyway. I mean, it was just, just got on with your work. My thing was concentrate on my football, try to win games, try to get a new contract, try to stay in the team. That was a full-time thing for me. I always made sure I was well prepared for training, for games. And so, I didn't really have a lot of time for trying to get publicity or looking for publicity. But, I think there is a time to say stuff. And I think, I've got to the stage now where I've been in the game for such a long time. I've finished playing. I went into coaching. I've done a little bit of coaching. And now I'm in the coach development side of it with the FA. So this is another thing. A lot of people don't know what you're doing now, how you got to that, how I've got to the point where I am now, which I'm a senior professional coach developer for the Football Association. So essentially that's coaching the coaches and at the senior ends, and my connection with Mikel Arteta and Arsene Wenger came via my current role. So obviously I didn't know them as when they were at the club as players and managers. I'd long since left the club by then, but I've got to know them through my current role as a senior coach developer. So I'm still involved in the game, and I wanted fans to kind of read that if they were interested in what I'm doing, and my involvement in that is quite extensive now. So I enjoy what I do, but obviously I'm still connected with the Arsenal.
Yeah, of course. I mean, one of the things that actually I was quite surprised to read in the book was that you never had an agent, did you, when you was at Arsenal? You played without an agent, and obviously nowadays they're like a massively important part of a player's career, aren't they? Yeah. I mean, you may be looking back on it now. Do you think maybe you might have been better off having an agent, or are you quite pleased maybe that you didn't go down that route?
No, I think I do feel, looking back on it now, that to have an agent, a good agent, is a good thing for a player. Yeah, it is. I wish I should have had an agent at times. You need it, a good one. You need somebody that's going to be looking out for you off the pitch, and a good agent should do that. Essentially, how I see it, if you've got a good agent working for you, making sure, obviously your contract is the biggest thing. As any sports person, that you're secure, that that you're getting a fair price for what your value is in the marketplace, and that not being undercut, and it's a business at that end of it. It's a business. So if a player's got a decent agent that's trying to get the best for him, the player doesn't need to worry about that. He can trust his agent. Obviously, it's a business, so the agent needs to be paid. If he's doing a good job, he gets paid whatever it is, 5%, 10%, 15%, whatever you negotiate with your agent. I think it's important. Then it leaves you to kind of really just concentrate on getting your game right and getting your training right, getting your preparation right, getting yourself right mentally to perform. So yeah, I feel quite strongly about agents. I think they get a bad rap. Obviously, there's some bad ones out there, and that gets publicized, and everyone thinks agents are bad. All agents are bad, and no agent should be in the game. And the clubs make it seem that bad as well, because obviously they don't want them in the game protecting the players themselves. So it's kind of the agents get a bad rap. But I think if you've got a good one, then they're worth whatever you are paying them.
Yeah, I mean, I say football's obviously a lot different now. I mean, speaking of that, obviously you made your debut, as we know, in a North London derby back in 1980, and of course at the weekend there was another North London derby. Obviously you've got connections to Mikel Arteta, of course, through your work previously with him. I mean, what do you make of this current Arsenal team? How far do you think they can go? Because they're playing really well at the moment. Obviously on Saturday was a really good performance, wasn't it, in the derby? So where do you think that this team can go now? I mean, obviously winning the league, I think it's a little bit too early for them.
Yeah, I if they win the league, it would be an amazing achievement. I can't really see that. When you look at the way Man City are playing and Liverpool are still a strong outfit. But yeah, we're doing really well. We're playing well. We're scoring goals. Players look as though they're really motivated. The buys have been good. I've been at the Emirates couple of times this season, and the fans seem really up for it and enjoying the atmosphere and what the team are producing on the pitch. So yeah, it's really good. It's really exciting to see everybody so enthusiastic about the team. So yeah, I feel that, and the longer we continue to get good results, I've been in teams that you keep winning, and all of a sudden you start feeling that you're not going to lose games. And this team could be getting to that point now where they're going out each week knowing 90% of them really honestly believing that they're going to win the game. And once you get that feeling going, it's very hard for it to stop. It's like a train, running without any brakes on. It just keeps going. So who knows? The only thing I would say is that, as a squad, a few injuries, hopefully we don't get to key players, and then it could fall away. But yeah, it's as it is at the moment. I'm really excited, like I suppose all you fans are as well. I suppose it must be great watching the team at the moment.
It is, yeah. I mean, I kind of see some sort of similarities maybe with the '89 team. A lot of young players, some that have come through, obviously the academy system, like yourself, that did it in that team, and there's kind of a few similarities there, isn't there? I'm not sure if I don't know. There's something maybe missing from this current team, I think, to maybe you guys in '89, maybe. But I can certainly see a lot of similarities there, which is obviously great to witness this again, really, having seen it.
Yeah, no, it's great when as you say, when we were coming. Well, I'm a little bit older than somebody like so. Michael Thomas and Rodcastle and Tony Adams and Martin Hayes, Kevin Campbell. I'm a little bit older than those, but all those guys came through, as you said, and they were fantastic players for the club. And I think to have young players coming through is a nice feeling. It does make it feel a little bit extra for fans. I know the fans used to feel it. We could feel as an homegrown player that the fans really wanted us to do well. And all the guys that I've mentioned and more felt that. And there's a connection there. And as you say, we've got some one or two good young ones that have come through now. Saka and Smith Rowe in particular. But yeah, it isn't as many as what we had when we, Tony Adams and the rest of those guys that are coming through. But we've still got a couple there, and it looks as though there might be one or two more sort of waiting to break through as well. I haven't seen much of the younger ones, but it sounds as though there's one or two sort of waiting almost to get their chance this season. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see one or two of them performing for the first team.
I mean, obviously, you did coaching with a lot of the younger players at Arsenal, didn't you?
Yeah.
A few years ago. I mean, was there anybody there that you was maybe surprised didn't make it as an Arsenal player, or maybe had a good career elsewhere but didn't quite make it for Arsenal? There must have been a lot of really good young players that you worked with.
Yeah, I'll talk about it in the book. When I was there as a coach of the young players, so I talk about my time there as a coach in the academy. There was some really good young talent that didn't break through, and I talk about the sort of discord at the time between the first team setup and the academy setup, and how it wasn't aligned, and there's personnel sort of differences that I think affected the development of the young players at that time, and they didn't get a chance. I'm trying to think of some of the names at that time, but it'd be people like around the time as Pennant and that sort of age group. I know Pennant went on to play a few games, but there were other guys there that didn't get the opportunity to break into the first team, and I talk about that, and I think it's important to kind of just say things how I saw them, and I think for me, because I've been in the game for such a long time. I played at Arsenal for 18 years. Then I went into the coaching for 7 at Arsenal. And then after that, I was at the PFA for a long, long time. And now I'm at the FA. It's a long time in the game. And I've kind of seen and spoken to a lot of people. I've had my own experiences. And I wanted to kind of, cover that in the book so that people can, if they're interested to find out, they can get an insight into some of the stuff that was going on at Arsenal when I was there, and then obviously at the PFA when I went there, and now at the FA. And another one of my kind of reasons for writing it was, I'll talk about this again in the book. I didn't realize at the time when I was playing that, obviously I knew I was the only black player on the pitch at the time. It was early in the 80s, but I didn't understand that people watching, black people were watching me because of that. And it was only after I stopped playing that I really realized the sort of the enormity of that, because it had such an effect on our fan base. And I feel so honored, really, that I was the first black player to establish himself at such a club. I played over 450 games. I look back on it now and I think, I'm really proud of that, because, to play so many games for such an iconic club and be one of the first black players to establish yourself, I think. And I look at our crowd, our support base now, and we've got a fantastic, diverse support base, and some of it stems from that period, early 80s. I think another thing that stands out to me was, my mum back then was frightened to go to games, and I wanted to kind of get that message across, because I've got 2 boys now, and they don't see that they can go to games and there's no kind of fear issue around it. But as a black woman back then, I wouldn't want her to go to games because the environment was so different to what it is now. So I kind of just wanted to talk about that, and so that the generation now, my boys' generation, can actually read it, sit down and read these experiences, and I think it's important that people know what's happened before. So yeah, it was. It's been a journey, and hopefully, people will read it and get something from the book.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was quite a difficult period, wasn't it? Sort of early '80s for racism in football, in the stadiums and stuff like that. And you know, after you got into the team, there were guys like Chris White, Raphael Mead, who came through the system as well. And Arsenal, one of the first clubs, wasn't they? Really, I know West Bromwich Albion had a few black players, didn't they? Sort of in the late 1970s and stuff. But Arsenal, one of the first, wasn't they, to really bring them through the academy system into the first team. And it was, you know, obviously you were the first one of that kind of line, really, wasn't it? So, I mean, it was a time of real change, wasn't it? That early period that you was in the team, you know, and not only from that perspective, but also from the fact that, you know, there was that sort of great team in the late 70s that reached the cup final, won the cup final, reached the European final under Terry Neal, and you kind of came along. Obviously, Liam Brady had left and Frank Stapleton had left, and then, you know, the team was a little bit in transition, wasn't it, for a while until George came along. I mean, what was that like playing in that sort of team? Because there was a lot of great players, wasn't there? Kenny Sanderson, Tony Woodcock, Charlie Nicholas.
Absolutely.
They didn't really achieve very much, did they? What was the reason for that, do you think?
Yeah, no, all those names that you mentioned there, I remember, you know, clearly playing with them early 80s. And yeah, as you said, there were some good players in there, really good players. Kenny Sampson, I think, came a little bit, he came sort of 84 sort of time, 85 maybe. But yeah, Graham Ricks, Alan Sunderland, there was some really good players, but apart from those 3 FA Cup finals, and we winning one of them, we got through to the Cup Winners' Cup early 81. But after that, there wasn't much success. And there was some tough times. You know, I remember playing in front of just 15,000 at Highbury.
Yeah.
And, you know, the team wasn't playing particularly well. And yeah, I'll talk around all that in the book, and how we had good players, but you know, we weren't able to produce on a regular basis, and the frustrations of the fans, and then Terry Neal getting the sack, Donnell taking over, and yeah, it was there were tough times. And my first few years, couple of years in the first team, trying to break in, was tough. It was hard to, you know, establish myself. The fans were disgruntled with the team, so I've had those kind of hard times. But then when George came, it kind of all freshened up, and George sort of changed it all around. So yeah, for me, I saw the tough times before George, and then George came, and then there was some really great moments, and then George, you know, came to an end, and it went down, and obviously Wenger came, but I missed Wenger. I wasn't there as a player for Wenger, but yeah, it was. We did have some good players back then, early 80s, but it didn't look like winning the league. And I'll talk about also with Liam. Liam was like in my position, and he left in 81, and if he hadn't left, cause I don't know how I would have got into the team. So it's like, he was like just an outstanding player, you know. It was, I wouldn't have got into the team in that position, but fortunately for me, he left, and that kind of opened that sort of space up. And I just thought, you know, I just got to try and grab it. And sort of those kind of moments, you know, sportsmen of footballers' lives are just like that. Because if Liam had stayed, my career at Arsenal obviously wouldn't have been the same, and it'd been a different story. So, yeah, I'll talk about that quite a bit in the book, because it just shows how fine the line is between, you know, succeeding at one place or going away and having to succeed somewhere else. I'm not sure if I would have stayed at Arsenal if Liam had stayed, because there wouldn't have been that space for me. But no, Terry Neal gave me my debut, so sadly passed away recently. So he was a big part of my early career.
Obviously, like you said, George Graham sort of turned up in 1986 and everything kind of changed. I mean, the League Cup in '87, the first trophy I'd ever seen us win live, and obviously the first trophy that you'd won as a player as well. I mean, that must have been. I mean, it was a great run to the final, wasn't it? Beating Spurs in the semi-final, that great last-minute goal from Rocky in the semi-final replay, and I mean, they must have been great moments for you as well. Like, you know, I mean, come through the system to actually finally win a trophy with a club. I mean, that must have been amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. The first one, and like you say, that game at Spurs, Rocky scoring the second goal that evening. Don't know if he was there, but anybody who was there. It was like, you know, as our first semi-final winning, and then getting through to the final. That was a great night. And yeah, to go on and then win the competition. Yeah, I'll talk about that. I'll talk about, you know, the players at that time. How George got us to believe in ourselves. You know, George done really well in terms of organising us and motivating the team to work together. Yeah, he was really good for us. All the players at that time, mid-80s. We needed it. The club needed something like that, and he came in and he just changed it around. And I talk about how I felt he did it, and how the players got together and worked together. And yeah, we went through games once we got organised. And as I was saying before, with this current team, you know, once you get organised and everybody knows what they're doing, and you start winning some games, the sort of belief that comes from that is incredible. And you know, we've done that. We've all those players that were playing then knows what it feels like to be in a winning squad, and knows that feeling that once you get it going, it's very hard for it to stop.
Yeah, exactly. You know, obviously from '87, eventually came '89, didn't it? And that great season. I mean, obviously before we got to that point, there was, of course, you know, the famous incident now that I know you've spoken about a lot recently with obviously Glenn Cockrell and the ban that you got for that. I mean, I was at that game against Southampton and, you know, missed the incident at the time because it was off the ball, as we know, and really shocked when I got home and saw stuff on the news thinking, wow, you know, I missed that today. I mean, obviously you in the book, you give the reasons behind it and all that kind of stuff. Obviously that made a major impact on your career, especially for England, didn't it? Because you just got in the England side then. And after the ban, they didn't seem, for some, I mean, it was amazing. Some of the players that got picked for England after that in your position, and you're not getting picked. It was incredible from a fan's perspective, watching it, thinking, how on earth is Paul Davis not in this squad when some of the players that were in there instead? I mean, did you feel that that shouldn't really have affected your England career, should it? Yeah, you got the ban, fair enough, and what it was, that was that. But, you know, did you still feel sort of bad about that? I mean, it's amazing that you never played for England, isn't it? Really, a full cap for England, incredible.
Yeah. It's one of the biggest regrets, for sort of footballing wise, not playing for England, because that's the biggest honour you can get as a footballer. So yeah, it doesn't sit too well with me looking back now. You know, the ban. You know, I shouldn't have retaliated, and that's one thing. You know, I talk about how it came about in the book and why it happened, the effects that had on me, playing wise, as you mentioned there, but also, you know, from a sort of psychological point of view, and how isolated and lonely you can feel when things like that happen. Because it was such a massive thing at that time. Nothing like that had happened in football, where the player had been trialed by TV, really, and essentially the referee hadn't seen the incident. It was caught on camera, and then it just blew up from there. So it was a massive thing, and the papers weren't backwards in coming forward and what they felt should happen to me, and they're all basically pretty firm against me being fined and heavily sanctioned. And so, yeah, it was a tough time trying to get myself through that, and then having the ban and then the fine on top. Although the club did support me through it, it's still a lonely place to be. And then trying to come back from that. As you said, I didn't think I really got close to getting into the squads after that when I was back playing.
No.
So yeah, it did have a big effect on my career, that incident, and the ban and the fine and the publicity that came with it. And it took me a long time to kind of not brush it off, but to accept that it had affected my playing career. And so I wanted again to talk about that in more detail in the book, because a lot of fans didn't understand why it happened or what was going on. So hopefully when they read it, they can kind of get a bit more of an understanding of it and the effects that it had on me. But yeah, it was tough times. And we wanted, so Tom Watt did the book, co-wrote the book with me, and it was great because he kind of, like you, he's a big fan and just remembers those moments in my career, and had a big input in kind of refreshing some of my memories. And also the publishers have been great in allowing me to write it in the way that I did, because I wanted it to be an honest account of my life, of my footballing life, and the stuff off it. So I'll talk about my personal life as well, and I wanted people to kind of get an understanding of that. So I've had some good help from the publishers and my co-writer Tom Watt, and we wanted to get the balance between success that we had and I had with the team, plus the stuff that goes on that people don't get to hear about.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the other kind of big incident really in your career was obviously the big fallout with George, wasn't it? Which at the time, obviously, from a fan perspective, we were told you were injured a lot, and that's why you wasn't in the team, and we kind of just accepted that really because that's what we were told. So we just assumed that was the case. And to read what happened in the book about how long that went on for as well. Actually, you was out of the team for a long time. Not through an injury, just due to the fact that George wouldn't pick you, which incredible really when you look back on it now, really, isn't it? I mean, that something like that could happen. I mean, I suppose in a way, similar sort of things maybe happened in more recent times with maybe Mesut Ozil and Aubameyang got kind of left out of the team and stuff like that. Did you kind of, when those incidents were going on, did you kind of relate to that in obviously what had happened to you as well? I know very different circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's lots of things that happen that I see in today's game that I think, oh, wow, okay, that kind of sounds a little bit similar to, Ozil's situation or Aubameyang's situation could be similar. I don't know what's gone on in their, in their particular situation, but obviously they're not playing in the team, and you don't, I'm a fan now, really. I don't know anything more than the fan. So I'm a fan, and I'm looking at it thinking, why is he not playing, and what's going on there? There must be something. Yeah. I'm trying to work it all out like a fan is. So
which is what we were doing when it was your situation.
Exactly. So my situation, I was out of the team, for 18 months. I didn't know it was going to be 18 months. Each week that went by, I thought, we're going to get through this. I'm going to get picked in the team. But each week went by, and it just, I wasn't just being ignored, or just, as I explained in the book, I was just training with the youth team. I wasn't part of the first team at all. And again, that was, that's a tough thing to go through as a professional person. And I look, at the time, I don't know how I really got through it. Because it's like your life's been taken away from you. It's like what you live for, really. And it's like, and I don't know really how I got through that 18 months of it. I think if I'd have known it was going to be 18 months, I probably wouldn't have got through it. But each week that went by, I just stuck in there. I'll talk about how that made me feel, and the fact, I even at one point put in for a transfer request. I talk about that because I'd got to the point where, it's ridiculous. I might as well go and play somewhere else. I just wanted the fans to kind of hear that side of it. And so, it was, my relationship with George, it was up and then down. And and it was, it's a challenging relationship in the end. But yeah, it's I think it's important that people hear, my version of it. I don't know whether George would want to say anything about it, but I wanted the fans, if they were interested, just to get my version, and then I wanted because we got two young, well, not young now, I've got two teenage boys who've been asking me about things in my career, because they obviously weren't around at this sort of time, and they're kind of reading things or hearing things of other people. Oh, so Dad, what happened there? And so I'll tell you one day. I'll put it in a book. Let me put it in a book. So part of it was for them. It's kind of leaving something for them to read and have a look at when they're reading it at the moment. So and they can read it later on in their lives or show their kids when they have kids. So I think I'm really pleased that I've done it now, for people to kind of get a better understanding of what was going on.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it was important, certainly from a fan's perspective, to know exactly what happened there, because we were in the dark about it already. But of course, you did get yourself back in the team and ended up winning a few more trophies at the end as well. I mean, the European Cup Winners' Cup in particular, I mean, that was amazing, really, wasn't it? To have won that competition. I know people might look on it now and think, oh, well, what was the Cup Winners' Cup? But back then, it was a really big competition, some really big teams. Obviously, Parma in the final. Do you think that was your best game for the club, would you say?
It was one of them. I think any final that you win, it's always great. So all the 89, the Lewis Cup, FA Cup, it always feels special. But that one, I think it was perhaps one of the most pleasing ones, because of the team that we had out and the team they had out. On paper, we should never have won that game. They had some outstanding players, particularly in midfield, actually, where we were weak that night, weaker. We had two younger players, myself, so they had Ian Selly and Stephen Morrow in there, along with myself. But they had three international players, Aspria, Brolin, and Zola, all outstanding players, top of their game. So, yeah, we just dug in. I'll talk about that in the book, how we just dug in that first 25 minutes. I don't know how we did that and managed to dig out a win. But I do remember that night for the fans that travelled and were in that end behind the goal in the first half. Fabulous occasions, those. Just seeing after the game the joy and talking about it and just reliving that, and just trying to give the fans a different perspective on how we felt about it, or how I felt. And great memories. Great. You never forget those years as fans. And I took, obviously with doing this book now, I've spoken to quite a few fans. It's amazing. What amazes me how much fans you guys remember. It's like, man, I can't. It's like, see, for us, and I've said this many times, but I've always found like playing is, this is how I do it. And I haven't spoken to a lot of other players about it, but I suspect that they do the same. It's like we go on from one game to the next, so we almost push the games out of our mind once we've played them, and the history, we don't remember them because we're going on to the next game. And I think what I find is that the fans, you guys and the fans, always remember the detail. So I've had fans come up to me and like remember details of games and remember so much around each game that I don't remember. and I think I don't think it's anything other than just the way that this is how I've had to kind of prepare myself for the game coming up. I've had to quickly forget that past game, and I think in doing that you rush by things and you don't remember stuff. So fans, you guys, if someone said I did something 25 years ago in a game, I was just so man. If you said that happened, I'm not gonna.
I mean, you did a lot of amazing things in a lot of games, to be fair, over the time you played. I mean, talking about it, I mean, you probably won't necessarily remember, but what do you think was your best goal that you scored? Because you scored about 37 goals, I think, for Arsenal in the end. What do you think was your favourite one or your best one?
I do remember scoring one. A lot of fans do like the goal I scored at IB, the diving header against Charlton.
Yes.
IB evening game.
Yes,
crossing
that was a great goal.
from the right. I've made like a 30-yard dash into the box, and the ball was just ahead of me on the penalty spot.
I think it was Rocky put that cross in, wasn't it?
It might have been, yeah. It's from the right hand side.
Yeah, I think it
Rocky.
was, yeah.
And like we were just breaking away down the pitch, and it was just a flying header that went from about the penalty spot, and it went right into the top corner. The fans,
wasn't it? The clock end as well.
Yeah, clock end, yeah. And then there was another one against Aston Villa, overhead kick.
Yeah,
I think ended up being them at IB 5-1, I think, in the end.
5-0, I think it was, yeah.
Was it 5-0, was it?
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with you.
You say 5-0. Yeah, that was my favourite goal of yours, actually, that Aston Villa one.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
So, it's... those two, I think, stand out for me. I didn't score as many as I felt I would have liked to. I thought I was more of an attacking midfield player. But I had to, play a role within the team, which was a more sort of conservative. But some fantastic memories. Loved most of it. Loved the fans. The fans have always been great to me, even now. And I appreciate all the support that I've had over the years. Even now, fans come up. So hopefully, people do enjoy it, reading it, and do get something from it. It's been a pleasure. I think hopefully all the questions that fans have asked me over the years have been answered in the book. Things like what am I doing afterwards? How did I leave Arsenal? Talk about that.
The car wash was quite an interesting thing, wasn't it?
The car wash. Yeah, so I'll talk about that thing about leaving a football club after being there 18 years is a tough deal. What are you going to do? Where are you going to be? You've been used to going in. It's all you've known since I was 15, really. And then at 35, now I'm out of there. And where'd I go? So, those are really kind of moments that fans don't know about, the feeling of that. And, because it is scary. And players, even nowadays, it's just a scary moment. What do you do? Where are you going to... where you going to earn your living? You've got a standard of, you've got family, you've got mortgage, how things going to... So, and it's the first time that happened to me. It wasn't like I moved from club to club. So, it was not one club really. Obviously, I left Arsenal. I talk about going to Brentford. It's a roller coaster being a professional. It's a great life. I mean, to talk about traveling around the world playing football, but there's some down moments that people might find interesting.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, I found it quite emotional, actually. Just so many parts of it, because it wasn't just about your career, which was fantastic for the most part. It's like you said, some down times as well, but just how emotional it was, really. Just things that you obviously going to Jamaica for the first time, great memories that you got over there as well, obviously from your family connections and stuff like that. So all those kind of things that I was unexpected when I was reading the book, obviously being a football book essentially, to read stuff like that was so it's so emotional for me to read it, actually. I'm
glad that thanks for that, because it's interesting. That's what we wanted it to be. We wanted it to kind of give that other side to it. Talk about the stress that it puts on relationships and family life, and that's what it's about. Sport does put pressures on you, and other things have to give. The pressures to perform, the pressures to get a contract, and I wanted the fans to kind of feel that side of it. And yeah, we won trophies and it was great. And I talk about, my first game, I talk about the winning of trophies and how it made us feel. But then the pressures of doing that, what's the effects on you? What's the effects on your family? And like I said earlier, one of the biggest things is, I'm very conscious that I was the first black player and I wanted that to come out and how that's made me feel and how the game needs to evolve in that area. So I'm quite passionate about that part of the game as well, and feel that there's a long way to go still. So I wanted that to come out. So hopefully in the book that runs throughout the book.
Yeah, no, it does, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, it's so much more than just a book about a footballer's career. It's so much more than that, and that's what makes it maybe stand out. I mean, I've got a lot of books, footballer books and stuff like that, and this what makes, for me, it stands out different to any other book that I've read really from a footballer, just because of all those other stuff that you touch on, which I mean, such
also talk about a couple of other things. So one of the things before I have to go, Richard, is that talk about the medal that I've lost, the Cup Winners' Cup. Yeah, so
you still not found that. You still haven't found it.
We're getting closer and closer to it. That's another story. That could be another book, actually. The next chapter of that. But there's a story behind the story there. I haven't got it back yet. But again, I talk about that in the book. How it was lost and somebody's got it and then rang me. But I needed to pay them to get it back. So it's kind of, but it's still ongoing. I still haven't got it back yet, but that's yet to, it's not, that chapter's not over yet. So yeah, I'll talk about that in the book.
Yeah, look forward to finding. Hopefully, you can get that back, because that's a shame. It's terrible, really. Probably one of the most precious medals that you won is the one that you no longer have, which is a shame. But hopefully you will get it back and it'll all end well, which is what we like, because you deserve to get that medal back, definitely, because you did so much to win it, didn't you? Played every game in that competition that season, and brilliant in that final as well. Just fantastic. I mean, also as well, you did have a little brush with Gaza, didn't you, at Kettering?
Yeah. Gaza. I talk about that experience working with Gaza at Kettering. I'll talk about how we got to know each other. So we played against each other many times, and always had some good battles with Gaza, because he was quite physical player, skillful player, good player. But we had some good battles. But talk about how our friendship developed and how I came to be his assistant at Kettering and what happened there. So there's been a lot of things in my career that's happened that I'm pleased about, some that I'm not so pleased about, but it makes, that's what makes our story, isn't it? We've all got, and I've spoken to quite a few players since I've written my book, and they're saying, how did you do that? Why, that's brilliant. I say to them, look, we've all got stories. We've all got a story, and why not tell it? So a few of them, you might get a few more players writing a few books now, because they started thinking about it. We've all got a story to tell. There's always things that have gone on that people might be interested.
Well, I think there's so many stories that happen in women football teams anyway. So the fact that when it's connected to Arsenal, our club, we love hearing all those stories as well. But more importantly, I think certainly from your perspective, because you were such a quiet person and we never found out anything about you. This is why this book's been so important, I think, because it was almost like reading a story. A lot of it was just so fresh stuff that we didn't know anything about. Most footballers, especially these days, you see, like you said, you know everything about them, don't you? Because they're on the telly all the time and they're interviewed all the time. But you was almost like, we don't know anything about Paul Davis other than what a fantastic footballer he was. So to read the book and get all that other information about him has been fantastic. It is a fantastic book, actually. Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the channel to talk about it and talk about all these other memories. I mean, I could literally talk for hours about all the.
I can see that, Richard. I can see that you know your stuff. I could sense that, and that's like I said earlier.
It was my era, you know. I grew up watching you play when you were breaking into the team, and I was young and watching Arsenal. And you know, it was a great time. Yeah, we didn't always win a lot at the beginning, as you said, but it was a great time to be an Arsenal fan and to experience all of that. And you know, that great team later on under George that won all the trophies, and you was a big part of all of that. So you know, it's been a big. It's been a big moment for me to actually be able to speak to you and go through all this stuff with you. It's just, but I could talk to you for hours about all your career and everything else, and loads of games that we played and everything else. But you know, I know you've got other things to get on with and get on with. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for giving up your time to speak to us today, and really enjoyed it. And yeah, obviously there's a link in the description in the video to get the book as well. So if anyone hasn't got the book yet, definitely buy it because it's fantastic and it's definitely worth getting. In fact, Tom Watt's been on the channel before actually as well.
Okay.
He's a great guy, Tom, isn't he?
Yeah, he loves his football. He's a fan like you guys, and he's kind of passionate just like you guys. But listen, Richard, thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed chatting with you, and
it's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Thanks for supporting the book, and yeah, like you say, hopefully other fans will get something from it, and up the Gunners for this season.
Exactly. Maybe we'll win the league. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Do 89 all over again. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Excellent. All right, Richard.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thanks for coming on. Brilliant.
No problem. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thanks a lot. Wow, there you go. Paul Davis there. Fantastic. What a pleasure to have him on. I say there's so many more things we could have got through. There's been a lot of comments in the chat that's come in. I couldn't really put them all on just because, you know, I knew we were a bit pressed for time, but it's good to see you guys in there. Sean says there that Paul Davis was present at the Arthur Wharton statue. I'm like, oh, was he? Fantastic. I mean, I know that's been a big issue that Sean organised actually. So that's great stuff there. You know, Neil says they're one of my heroes indeed. Loki says played 10 years ahead of his time. Yeah, I would say almost definitely. He could play in the team now, as Melvin says there. What age at school did you realise you had talent to go? Yeah, I couldn't really get a chance to get through everything, unfortunately. Loki says the book is excellent. Yeah, it is an excellent book. I mean, definitely get it if you haven't already. Melvin says it fit into the present team perfectly. Yeah, you know, 100% he would. His style of play would have been fantastic, without a shadow of a doubt. Sean says they love watching Paul play alongside Stevie Williams. Yeah, they had a great partnership, didn't they? Beating Liverpool. Yeah, we talked about that. That was a great day. Yeah, brilliant stuff. Some great memories, obviously. Melvin says there, would George Graham have accepted an agent for a player? Well, I mean, I think most of the players had agents, didn't they? In those days, probably they didn't have the influence they have now, obviously. Interesting that what Paul said about you know, maybe he wished he'd had an agent now. And now he obviously thinks they're play an important role for the players. Obviously, us as fans and maybe other people don't always see the good things that they do. But yeah, Neil says, I wish Paul said we were winning the league. Well, you know, we might win the league. Who knows? But it's all good stuff, isn't it? So yeah, so a lot of people was in there. Obviously, Loki mentions Rafael Mead, Chris White. Yeah, I mentioned them. They were, you know, my first season watching Arsenal at Highbury. They came through in the team as well, alongside with Paul. So that was great. And Terry's in as well. Doing Terry. It says two class acts on the same show. No, it was great to have Paul Davis on. Absolute real pleasure. Sean's there talking about that Tottenham replay, rocking in the Arsenal. It was rocking in the Arsenal, and yeah, when Rocky scored, it was definitely rocking, wasn't it? We was going mad. That was a great night to be an Arsenal fan. There definitely was. Terry says there, what a lovely guy Paul is, so down to earth. Reminds me of you. Yeah, he's very similar to Neil, isn't he? They got very similar kind of down to earth attitude to life, which is good. Loki says there, only cost £180 return. That's obviously for the final in Copenhagen. We did talk about that. Loki says goals v Manchester United League Cup. Did Paul Davis score in that League Cup? Did he again when we lost to Man United? I can't remember. I'm not sure. I think Tony Woodcock scored one of them, I think. So there's some good stuff. Neil's just saying thanks to Terry for that. Neil says they'll never stop loving him. No, he won't. What an absolutely fantastic player. Loki says Paul's like Benjamin Button. He looks younger. You know, he does actually. Funny enough, the cover of his book, he looks older on the cover of his book when he was maybe 20 than he does now. He's like in his 50s or whatever old he is. So yeah, he's definitely looking very, very well, isn't he? Which is great to see. Which is great. Sean says must have given so much confidence to Mickey and David. Yeah, of course. Watching a player like that, you know, a little few years older come through the system and get in the team. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Terry says what a class act. Love watching him then. Love watching. Yeah, he was fantastic footballer, and you can kind of tell, can't you? You see, for me, how he played as a footballer is almost exactly how he's like now. As you know, when you're talking to him, that's exactly what he was like as a player. You know, we didn't hear enough from him, did we? When he played, we never heard much from Paul Davies at all. I mean, I can only remember him. Maybe a couple of interviews I heard of him when he was playing. So it was the book was fantastic. It was one of the most anticipated books from an Arsenal player that I was looking forward to getting hold of. And it is a brilliant book, absolutely fantastic. Absolutely loved reading it, and obviously loved having Paul on. I thought I'd wear my green shirt, you know, obviously a shirt that he would have worn back in the early 80s. Not great times for the team on the pitch, but a fantastic kit. And some great players as well, you know, that played as well. Which has been great. So yeah, brilliant. So obviously, thank you very much to Paul for giving up his time. A few little technical issues at the beginning. He couldn't log into the stream, but we got there in the end, which was the main thing, and it was worth the wait, wasn't it? Because he was fantastic. So yeah, Paul Davies. Wow, can't believe he's been on the channel. Probably one of the first real Arsenal heroes of mine. I say at the time when I first started going to Highbury. And he was just getting into the team. So brilliant. And what a great guy as well. And I say definitely buy the book. There is a link in the description of the video down below. So click on that, it takes you through to Amazon. You can buy the book and you definitely won't regret it because it's fantastic. It is a brilliant read. There's so much more to it than just the football and the games. Obviously those are mentioned, but there's so much more to it. It's such a great story. And yeah, we're hoping that he can get his medal back from 94, which he's gone missing. And hopefully he can get that back, the 94 Winners' Cup medal. What a fantastic medal to win, and unfortunately at the minute he's not got it, but as he said, he's hoping to get that back, which will be great. So yeah, great stuff. Brilliant guest. And obviously thank you to all you guys for watching as well. I hope you enjoyed listening to Paul speaking about his career and some memories, and obviously the book as well. I don't know if you can see it behind me there. It is just over on the back there, my copy, and it is definitely worth getting hold of because it's fantastic. So yes, obviously thanks to Paul for that, and to Claire as well, who's sort of his agent, I suppose, in a way, for organising it and getting him to come on. So yeah, really enjoyed that. Brilliant stuff. Don't forget, on the channel we've got tomorrow night, it's the Europa League game against Bodo Glimt, who we did speak about on the show the other night. So definitely join me for that. I'm going to be a bit late starting actually, so I'll probably be, the game will already start by the time we get going. But don't worry about that. We'll go through it, so it'll be good. So that'll be tomorrow night. On Friday, there's another watch along. England Lionesses against America, the European champions, will be the world champions. Unfortunately, Leah Williamson's had to pull out of the Lionesses squad with injury, but it's still going to be a very strong England team. And let's hope Serena can keep her unbeaten run going. So join us for that. It's 8 o'clock kickoff Friday, so we'll go live about 10 to 8. And hopefully we'll get that, which will be good. And what else have we got? Oh, Sunday, of course, Arsenal-Liverpool. Wow, what a game that's going to be. Funny, isn't it? Arsenal-Liverpool, you know, those great games against Liverpool that Paul Davies was involved in. I know he didn't play in 89, but, you know, the 87 final and loads of other games in that period. Liverpool, we're playing Liverpool again this weekend, aren't we? So that's always good stuff. So yeah, let's look forward to that. So yeah, if you are around on any of those shows, please join us because it's going to be great. Look forward to all of that sort of stuff. Loki says, I remember getting spanked 5-2 at home by Spartak Moscow. Yes, I think we wear this green kit that night, didn't we? I know we was at home, but I'm sure we wore the away kit, didn't we? I'm sure we did. Lee Chapman played, and I've had nightmares about it ever since. Actually, it says the best away team I've seen. Yeah, that's certainly one of the best. At that time they were. I think since then we've maybe seen a few more brilliant away teams come to Arsenal. But yeah, that was a strange night, wasn't it? I think Lee Chapman scored actually, even though we lost. I'm pretty sure he did score in that game, Lee Chapman. But I say, we did wear this kit. Terry says, hey, Richard, many thanks for getting Paul on. Loved it. It just keeps getting better. What a great show. Oh, thank you much, Terry. And I really obviously appreciate all the support that you've given us. Pretty much from day one, you've been here and seen us grow along and coming on the journey with us. So it's always great to see you in there. Neil says there, night Terry. Thank you, buddy, and thanks again, Richard. No, thanks Neil again. You know, brilliant. You're such a great important part of the channel as well, which is always nice. Sean says there, I'm fearful of Liverpool on Sunday despite their form. I think we're all a little bit fearful of Liverpool because we know on their day how good they are. what they can do to any team. Let's face it. So yeah, I'm worried about the game, of course, but it's as I said on Monday's show, it's an opportunity for us to really show what we're about this season. I think if we do beat Liverpool, despite their patchy form, if we do go out and beat Liverpool on Sunday, I think that shows with on top of all the other results that we've put together this season, obviously beating Tottenham and whatever. So that would be a real big statement for me, wouldn't it? You know, if we can do that. But yeah, it's going to be a really tough game, isn't it? I mean, wow, but it's exciting, isn't it? These are the games that you want to see us play now. When we're in form and playing well, you want to see us play these big teams. And unfortunately, the game against Manchester City, which would have been coming up, has obviously been postponed due to the Europa League situation. But you know, we want to play these teams now, don't we? Well, we're playing well. You know, don't wait until later on in the season when maybe we've got a few injuries and maybe our form's dipped a little bit. Let's play them now. Let's get the victories where we can. And yeah, I mean, I think we can beat Liverpool. Don't get me wrong, but yes, I'm worried about the game, and we know how good they are. Neil says, "Tough game, Sean, but we'll edge it." Yeah, I'm confident we can win. Unless at this moment in time, I think we've got to be confident of beating anybody because of the form that we're in. You know, and I think at home as well, you know, I wouldn't fancy playing Liverpool at Anfield, to be honest with you. We know what our record there's like, but certainly at the Emirates, I know recently they've done well at the Emirates, haven't they? They've won the last 3, I think, without us even scoring. But I've got a lot more confident we can get a result at home than I would if we was at Anfield, certainly. Terry says 4-1, putting Liverpool to the sword. Well, I mean, why not? But I'm not as confident as you, unfortunately, Terry. But I generally aren't. Not many people are as confident as Terry, apart from Neil, possibly. But it's nice that that you feel that way. As Sean says, if we lose to Liverpool, don't get too down, as we are really progressing. No, exactly. I mean, obviously, it's a lot to do with the performance as well, isn't it? I mean, I've never got too down on a defeat if we played well and we've been unfortunate. It's how we play, isn't it? If we don't turn up a big game and we get rolled over, then that's not going to be good, is it? But I think if we play well, you know, Liverpool are a good team. They can beat anybody on their day. We know that. But let's see. I mean, if we put in a decent performance, I think we can get a result anyway. But yeah, we'll try not to get too down. But it'll be disappointing, won't it? Because of how well we're playing and how, you know, we're top of the league at the moment. Obviously, by the time we play on Sunday, we may not be. But all we can do is win our game, and that's, you know, and if we do that, we'll be top again, won't we? Another week at the top will be nice, wouldn't it? Neil says, yeah, true, Sean, like that, but we will prevail. Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so. But yeah, I mean, obviously, Paul Davis played a few big games against Liverpool that he won, so there's no reason to suggest that we can't emulate that on Sunday and beat Liverpool again, and, you know, go back to the top of the league. But yeah, so all this is coming up on the channel. So I say, if you do enjoy what we do and you have enjoyed the show and you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. Don't forget to give it a like as well. Not for me, give it a like for Paul Davis, because he gave his time up to come on and speak to us, and it was brilliant, and I really enjoyed it. So yes, please give it a like for Paul's sake, you know, because I'm sure he'll appreciate it as well. But yeah, so that was Paul Davis, the actual Paul Davis who played for Arsenal for 15 years. Nearly 470 games, whatever it was he played. You know, that's the actual Paul Davis. He won 2 league titles with Arsenal. You know, he won the FA Cup, 2 league cups, a Cup Winners' Cup. All those trophies he won with Arsenal, and we watched him, didn't we? Not all of us, but a lot of us watched him win all those trophies, and it's been fantastic. You know, it wasn't a fake Paul Davis; it was actually the real Paul Davis, and he was brilliant. So yeah, that was a fantastic show. I really, really enjoyed that. It's great. And yeah, look forward to the game tomorrow, of course, the Europa League. So join us for that. I say I'll be a little bit late starting, but stay with us. We will be here and we'll be doing it probably 10-15 minutes into the game, but we will be there. As Sean says, can you get David O'Leary on the channel? Wow, now that would be great as well, wouldn't it? David O'Leary, our record appearance holder. I don't know, actually. I'll try. I mean, there's a few players I've been reaching out to, former players of Arsenal, that I've been reaching out to see if they'll come on. And let's see. I've had 1 or 2 on already. I haven't had Eddie McGoldrick was on a few weeks ago. I've had a few others before. Mark Flats has been on. Isaiah Rankin's been on. Tom Watt actually helped write that book. He's been on a couple of times. So yeah, I mean, David O'Leary is one on my list. I've got a long list actually of potential former players I'd like to get on the channel. It's not quite as simple as it could be to get them to come on, but certainly David is one of them on my list. There's a few others that I'm still trying to get on as well. But if we can pull that off, then that'll be great, won't it? He'd be a great guest, wouldn't he? Let's be honest. 700 odd games for Arsenal, and a fantastic guy as well. We won't talk manager of Leeds and that night when he they beat us 1-0 and cost us a league, but anyway, we'll skip over that little section. But yeah, he would be a great guest. Loki there, Charlie Nicholas, oh wow, yeah, he's another one. I've reached out to Charlie actually. Obviously it's more to do with getting hold of the right people around him, his management company and stuff like that. That was when he was still on Sky, actually. It might be a little bit easier now, I'm not sure. But yeah, he's another one that's on my list, Charlie Nicholas. Again, another player who won his... I know he didn't win his kit, did he? He came the year after. But yeah, Charlie Nicholas would be amazing. I mean, what stories he's got, what a character. So yeah, I mean, it would be great to get any of those guys on, wouldn't it? Anyone, to be honest, I would, if there's any Arsenal players out there that watch this, who played for Arsenal in the 1980s and you want to come on, please come on, because I'd love to speak to you. 80s and 90s is my real era when I was going home and away every week, and some great memories. And yeah, it would be great to get any of those guys on from pretty much from 1980 to maybe 95, 96, any of that kind of time would be fantastic. Sean says there, Charlie the Playboy. Indeed, yeah, he'll have some stories, won't he, Charlie? Whether he'll tell us them or not, I'm not sure. He would certainly have some stories, won't he, Charlie Nicholas? So yeah, I mean, if he comes on, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? David O'Leary, as we said, there's a load of others, isn't there? John Lukic, I'd love to get John Lukic on actually, because he was an amazing player for us, wasn't he, all those years as our goalkeeper. So it'd be great to get him on. I like to look at players that maybe don't do a lot of media stuff. Lee Dixon, for example, he's always on the telly, isn't he? Martin Keown. It must be great to get them on. Maybe more. I'm more interested in maybe the players that we don't hear a lot from. Paul Davis being an example. Yes, he's doing the rounds for his book at the minute and stuff, but some of those other guys that maybe haven't had so much, we don't know too much about them. They'll be the ones I'd like to get on, maybe as well. But yeah, I mean, Charlie Nicholas, well. That would be great, wouldn't it? But we'll see. I mean, I'm working on a few other players, so hopefully one or two more might appear over the next few months on the channel. Maybe we'll see. But out of all the players I've had on so far, no disrespect to all the other guys, have been brilliant guests. I think Paul Davies is definitely the top one in terms of his career, what he's done, and what a great guy as well. Brilliant stuff. So definitely buy the book. I say click on that link, it takes you through to Amazon, and you can get the book, as I've got in the background there, as you can see. It's called Arsenal and After, and it is brilliant, honestly. I'm not just saying that because it was Paul Davies that was on. It is a brilliant book. It is really, really emotional. Some of the stories that he's got from his life, his personal life, really, really emotional and a fantastic book. So definitely get it. You won't regret it. It's money well spent, and it'll be fantastic. So definitely do that. Loki says, my mate done Winterburn's bathroom. He paid cash. I'm sure he did. Oh well, if you've got contacts with Nigel Winterburn, Loki, let us know, and we'll try and get Nigel Winterburn on. That'd be great, wouldn't it? What a fantastic guest he would be. Another one of my all-time favourite players. I do like a good left-footed player because I'm left-footed, you see. So Paul Davis, Nigel Winterburn, left-footed players, I do enjoy. So yeah, if you've got a contact for Nigel Winterburn, then yeah. Maybe what you want to do is ring him back and say, can we come back and do your bathroom? But use it as a way in, and then say, come on the show and get him on the show. I mean, Terry does a lot of bathrooms, so maybe Terry can get in touch with him, do his bathroom again, and get him back. Terry says, Richard, can you get Magic Melvin, Neil, Steve, Adam, MM77, Amar, and the Giraffe? What a coup that would be, a defo watch. Well, get everybody on together. A big that'd be good. Actually, Terry, that's a good. I quite like that idea. Everybody that's involved in the channel, so everyone that's been on the shows, all the regular people, the people that I do with the women's show, obviously you guys that come on the review show, the guys that's got their own shows on the channel. It would actually be good, wouldn't it, to get everybody together? I quite like that. That would actually be good. Loki says it was in '96, was it? Wow. Okay, a long time ago. Obviously, he was almost coming up to the peak of his career then, wasn't he? '96. Wow, brilliant. That's good, wasn't it? I cleaned. Well, I personally didn't clean. I was involved in cleaning Frank Bruno's carpets in his house in the 1980s, actually. But yeah, that's a different story. But anyway, There's no Arsenal connection there. It just happened to be. It reminded me of that when you're saying about doing Nigel Winterburn's bathroom. But yeah, I mean, if we can get Nigel Winterburn on, brilliant stuff. I mean, that would be great, wouldn't it? But no, I agree, Terry. It would be a great show, wouldn't it? To get everybody on the same show one night. It's going to be busy, obviously, a lot of people on. But maybe what we might do is when there's maybe a significant thing happened, whether it's a trophy Arsenal have won or whether the channel has reached a big milestone. It's reached a few milestones recently. Actually, that's a good idea to just put in there, Christmas special. Actually, there. That might be it, actually, a Christmas special. Because what's going to happen is, obviously, no one's interested in the World Cup. Oh, let's be honest. The World Cup's a waste of time in December. You don't know. The World Cup's a summer event, isn't it? You know, it's ridiculous having it in the winter. So we're not going to be watching it. So we might as well do something instead on the channel, something we're going to enjoy. And maybe a big Christmas special of all the guys from the Over and Over and Over Again network of presenters and guests. That would be a great show, actually. And I think that's a good idea, and I like that. And obviously, Terry, you're welcome to come on as well. I don't think we could do a show with a channel show, if you like, without you being involved, Terry, because you've been such a big part of what we do, and every show that we do, you're always there, putting your comments in and joining in and everything like that. So I think you would need to come on. You know, maybe you would have to get you a Christmas present, actually. As Loki says, their Arsenal birthday, because obviously, technically Arsenal's birthday was it yesterday? Was the official when the first meeting was to form Arsenal? But I know it was obviously was it Boxing Day, wasn't it, when the actual club was officially formed? So yeah, obviously Christmas is a time for celebrations for that as well. Neil says Terry and Loki would be great to be. Yeah, Loki as well, definitely. Loki's got some great memories from days gone by. We could add him in as well, couldn't we? Definitely. I mean, you know, there's a lot of regular guys that's been in the chat throughout really the time of the channel. So, you know, if any of you guys want to come on the show, let me know and I can send you a link and you can jump in and we you know, you can join in with us. It'd be brilliant to get you on. You know, you've been a part of the show. You're a part of the show anyway, so it'd be nice to get you on and you can say hello to everybody, meet us all, and all that kind of stuff. So, but that's a good idea. Now I'll look into organising that maybe for Christmas time. And that could be quite good. A big extravaganza, we'll call it. The over and over and over again Christmas extravaganza with everybody involved. That could be quite good. And maybe get one of our two of the ex-players to come in. David O'Leary, here we go. He can join in with us as well, Carly, and Nigel Winterburn, which Loki's going to arrange for us. So, but yeah, I mean, what a great show. I'm so happy to have got Paul on and to have spoken to him. You know, shame I could have kept him here for 2 hours just talking, or 3 hours just going through. So I've got a big sheet of loads of stuff that I wrote down. I don't know if you can see it, but a load of stuff I wrote down that I was going to talk about, but I only got through not even half of it just because of the time frame, and obviously there's a lot to get through. So, but anyway, it was great to have him on. It was fantastic. And definitely buy the book anyway. That's the most important thing. So, but yeah, and he did have a car wash business as well. I know we briefly touched on that. So if you haven't read the book, there's a little section in there where he talks about the a car wash business that he had when he finished playing, which is quite funny. And also the stuff with Gaza as well at Kettering, which was good stuff. So, but loads of. I mean, it's an amazing book. So there's loads of great stories in there that you'll enjoy. So I'm going to go and have something to eat because I've been at work all day and now I've been speaking to Paul Davies and yeah. So I need to get some food. So yeah, tomorrow join us for the watch along. We'll be late starting, but don't worry, we will be here doing it. So join us for that. And I say Friday the England game, England Lionesses, and Sunday the big one, Arsenal Liverpool. That is going to be good. It's a brilliant weekend of football coming up. So please make sure you join us for all of that. So I'll say thanks again to Paul Davies for giving up his time to this evening to come and speak to us. A fantastic guest, brilliant player, absolute legend, and a great book. So definitely buy that as well. Loki says a great show. See you all. Yeah, thanks for joining in, Loki, as well. Good to see you again, my friend, as always. And yeah, we will. I'll be back. I'll say tomorrow. So please join us for that. So loads of great stuff coming up on the channel, of course, as well, going into next week. More great stuff. Terry says, night, Loki. See you soon. Neil says, take care, much love. And to you, mate, as well. Yeah, take it easy. Have a good evening, everybody. Enjoy. Maybe, I'm sure you'll be watching some Champions League football tonight. This time next year, we'll be playing some, won't we, in the Champions League? So we'll all be able to enjoy it a little bit more. But yeah, enjoy whatever you're doing tonight. And I'll say we'll see you tomorrow for the game. against Bodo Glimt. And I've got a video going out a little bit later on in about an hour, a little preview of that game with a little bit of information I managed to find out on Bodo Glimt, not from our friend, a Norwegian friend, unfortunately. I haven't been able to get hold of him. He's not been in contact with us, which is a shame. But I did manage to find out a little bit more information about our opponent. So that video will be going live on the channel in about an hour, 7:30, I think it's going live. So if you want to check that out as well, then please do so. And I say we'll be back for the game tomorrow. And yeah, we will see you very, very soon. Thanks to Paul Davies. Thanks to all you guys for watching. Don't forget to buy the book Arsenal and After. Click on that link. I'm not making any money out of it. Don't worry. It takes you straight to Amazon. You can just buy it from there. So definitely buy the book though, because it's brilliant. And yes, I'll see you tomorrow. Take it easy, guys. Thanks for watching. Please give it a like, and we will see you later. In the meantime, of course, as always, come on, you Gunners. Come on, you Gunners. Let's do this. Let's do this. Terry says, emotional, guys. Keep it up. Yeah, well, it's always emotional, but speaking to you guys. But that was quite emotional, actually. It was a great moment and something I won't forget either. So, but yeah, see you all tomorrow for the game. Another good performance from Arsenal incoming, hopefully. A Manquillos masterclass is what I'm expecting. So let's enjoy that. A few goals from our latest little Brazilian player to grace the hallowed turf at the Emirates. So yeah, look forward to that tomorrow. So yeah, I will see you for that. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to Paul Davies as well. What a fantastic guy. What a brilliant player and everything else. So yeah, thanks to all you guys as well. We will see you very, very soon. And of course, take it easy and thanks for watching. See you later, guys.